Hey everybody, so today there's something that we need to address. This can no longer be ignored, and by this, I mean car life versus van life. One of the top comments I get on my videos is if and when I will upgrade to a van, and some comments even insist that I must upgrade to a van. However, although it might seem logical that going from a car to a van would be an upgrade, there's actually some reasons why I prefer to live in my car. So today we're going to talk about this. We're going to discuss the pros and cons of both car and van life, and I will explain why I choose to live in my car even though I could afford to get a van instead. So first of all, I'd like to share some of the things that car life and van life have in common and why either one can be a desirable choice. The first thing is that you may benefit from not paying rent, although you may have a car payment or insurance payment. Additionally, both lifestyles make it easy to travel, and there's something nice both ways about being off the grid and living life a little bit differently and on your own terms. And now I'd like to address the ways in which living in a van is potentially better than living in a car. So the obvious thing is, of course, that it's a bigger space. There's more room for storage, there's more room to hang out, you can actually sit up, potentially you can stand up depending on the size of the van, so the extra space can go a long way, especially if you're traveling and you need to pack a lot of belongings and you're going to be spending a lot of time in the van. It's also easier, I would guess, to do cooking in a van. I think depending on what kind of setup you have, you can potentially have a kitchen, or even if you don't have a kitchen in the van, you can certainly have more cooking supplies that you could cook on like a portable stove or something outside of your van. Also, I think one really key benefit of a van is if you want to live with more than yourself. A van can be big enough for 2 or more people, whereas a car, I really couldn't imagine sharing it with anybody else.
Hey, my name's Jake. This is my little homie Louie.
And finally, a benefit of living in a van that I can't deny is that it does come with a certain amount of dignity that car life doesn't inherently come with, and I feel like I have to defend car life more than I would if I lived in a van. In a van, I feel like the stereotype is that you can be somebody who's kind of hip and cool and off the beaten path, but dignified, creative, adventurous. But a car, the real stereotype that comes with that is being down and out, kind of not having things figured out, being disheveled. And I really don't think that has to be the case because obviously living in my car, I still have a job, I still have access to the shower at the gym. But I think just telling people I know or telling people at work, if I said, oh, I live in a van, it wouldn't take long at all for people to get on board with that. But with a car, it's a little bit different. And now for the reasons that living in a car is actually better than living in a van. The first reason is that living in a car, it's a lot easier to park. And with either van or car life, parking is something that you're going to be thinking about a lot because you're always going to have to park somewhere for the night to sleep. And a van, a lot of the options for parking, there's overlap. You know, you can still park residential neighborhoods, you can park at park and rides, you can park at Walmart depending on the Walmart. So it's similar, but you can't deny that a big van parked on the street or parked anywhere really is going to draw attention, and a lot of people may rightly assume that you are in fact living in your van. However, with a car, I think I can really go unnoticed a lot of the time. A car just doesn't stand out, so even if somebody sees my car, like they might not recognize it. Seeing it a few days in a row or multiple times, not in the same days in a row, because it's just a car. Like all cars kind of look the same. I think we're trained to sort of tune it out when you see a car, and you don't really pick up on seeing the same car unless it's really there all the time. So when I park in residential streets, I really blend in. Pretty much anywhere that I park, I blend in. At hotels, I blend in. So I benefit a lot from that. It's also smaller, so it's easier to park.
Obviously, parallel parking is always a little bit difficult.
The second reason is that my car still gets really good gas mileage, so I don't have to think about using extra gas, or when I'm just driving it normally, I'm not really losing anything by having upgraded to a bigger space that is actually more expensive to drive around just for regular things. The third reason is that I already had my car. I didn't have to pay to get a van to live in. A car was something that I already pretty much needed, so I had it and it already mostly paid it off, so there was no new expense or getting something that I wouldn't otherwise need.
I sold pretty much everything I had to get into this, and as a result, now that I have a house, I have no furniture and very little belongings.
The fourth reason that a car is potentially better than a van is because although a van, yes, it is bigger, there is some more room to spread out and store things. When you think about it, it's still not really big enough to really spread out. Like, I feel like if you have a van, you still have to be very compact and not have a lot of clutter, which is a good thing. But at that point, I'm like, I might as well just stay in my car and really keep this to the bare minimum rather than having slightly more space, but not enough space to really feel like it's not a vehicle that I'm living in. As I mentioned, that extra space can be enough to make things doable if you don't have storage somewhere else or if you are traveling. But for me, I can store things at my office or at the gym, so I can get by really easily without having any storage space pretty much in the car. However, even if I was traveling, I don't envision that I would spend a ton of time in my van. What I do now is go to libraries or go to my office, but the trips I have made, I will also go to whatever local library there is or like a cafe or something. So I think even if I traveled, I wouldn't be wanting to be hanging out in the van all the time. The fifth reason is that in addition to potentially having to pay more upfront to get a van, I think the costs are going to be more across the board. In addition to having more expensive gas, I anticipate that the repair costs and maintenance would also be more expensive, as well as insurance.
This is how we work out on the road.
And the sixth reason car life can be better is I really do think that it's unique, and that can cut either way. As I said before, on one hand, there's judgment that comes with car life, and it makes me a little bit reluctant to tell people, but also I do feel like I'm doing something different and really saving money and making the most of my car, which I already had on hand. I've never tried van life personally, so I can't say definitively that car life is the better choice for me, but from what I've learned and what I can tell, I'm pretty sure that car life is the better choice for me for now. Car life is still something that I'm taking day by day, though. I'm not going to say I'll always live in my car, although I definitely foresee doing this for a while. However, when I think about van life, I do think it would be fun. I think it would be pretty cool to design a van and try it out, but I can't say that I would rather do that than someday go back to a house or an apartment. Life is always changing. I never know what's going to happen next, so I'm going to keep an open mind. Maybe I will try a van someday, but for now, car life is where it's at for me. Thanks for watching. Bye.